Hello. Today we wanted to talk about Sophocles' three plays, Antigone, Oedipus the King, and Electra. And I have a guest here. She's called Chris, and basically we've been reading them out loud together with a group of friends. So I thought it'd be cool to bring her over. We're gonna read a passage, start from Antigone, and then we'll talk more generally about the whole thing. Do you wanna get started?
I don't know if we should read the passage first, or if I should give a short introduction on Antigone.
Yeah, maybe tell them a little bit about what Antigone is about, and
Okay.
and then we read the passage with that context.
Okay. I'm not too sure who to look at, to be honest. The camera or you.
It doesn't matter. I can ignore that. Anyways, no one's gonna watch that.
Okay.
It's really just us here.
Okay. Antigone is basically a play about Antigone.
Okay.
She is essentially like the central anchor within the story, and she's trying to avenge her brother's
Might
death.
have to speak a little louder.
She's trying to avenge her brother's death, Polyneices,
Right?
who actually died in battle killing his other brother.
Yes.
But for some reason, Polyneices, because his death is considered less because his death was not for the state,
Right.
which is very interesting, like the way that Polis is such a central factor for Creon and for Antigone, and the way the death is reciprocated. It's quite interesting. So yeah, Antigone is basically trying to give her brother a proper burial because Creon said that Polyneices did not deserve it because his death was not a noble death.
Right. Yeah. To give a bit of context on that, because I was searching stuff about Oedipus,
Yeah.
I learned a lot about the characters and how both the stories are interlinked. And turns out that it's Policius, and I don't remember the name of the other brother.
I think I can't remember.
But basically, when Oedipus when Oedipus left the city, which we'll be talking about Oedipus later, I don't know why it's coming before. Honestly, I'd much rather have it chronologically.
And also, we're talking about the children of Oedipus. So
Yeah.
we should have probably learned about Oedipus first.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I guess it's because it doesn't matter. Everyone allegedly knows about Oedipus. All I knew about Oedipus is that he would eventually kill his father and fuck his mother. Nothing else. But yeah, basically, so those two are the sons of Oedipus.
Yeah.
That when he left, they were sort of like left in charge for the city.
Yeah.
And they got this agreement of they would rule the city, I think, 1 year each.
Okay.
But not Policius, not the one that Creon doesn't want to bury, but the other one that was buried with honors.
Yeah.
Decided while he was on the throne that he would keep the throne and not let his brother go into it, and so basically he sort of broke the deal. And then Policius, he got so angry with this that he searched for foreign forces to help him fight him in war to get the throne. Now they both died in that war, but Creon. Creon decided that Iocasta's brother, Iocasta being the wife of Oedipus, decided that Policius was way more dishonorable than the other brother because he brought foreign forces to Athens, betraying the whole city, and that is why he doesn't wanna give him a proper burial or anything like that. That's sorry for interrupting you.
No, of course. I mean, like, I think with this play, we're going to, like, as we do the extra reading, we're going to sort of understand the relations between the characters themselves, because I feel like Sophocles is, like, there's nothing that is, like, clear or simple about him. Like, it's like, so you could reduce this play to someone trying to give their brother a proper burial, trying to avenge their brother's death, but it's like it's very knotted. It's so much more than that. There's lots of tension between, which I really, really enjoyed about it. We get to meet a lot of Antigone's relation with her sister, which remains just being her sister, right? I was curious to see what you'd think if it was as men who died instead of Polynices, would Antigone have the same fusion to avenge her sister's death in the same manner that she did for her brother?
I think so. Antigone for me seemed like very fucking like fair. I think even more because her brother, she didn't have as much relationship with as her sister, because her sister is the only one that left with her when they are the two that were together with Oedipus when he went to this other city, when he exiled himself. So I think so. I mean, for me, Antigone is like very very fair and not doesn't have those things in mind. You know, like she is happy to have the other brother having a proper burial, but she will not accept the brother that unjustly or justly decided to attack the city to not be buried.
Yeah, I think like I agree with that sentiment, because like I feel like Antigone is just her, what sort of grounds her existence is her family, right? And it's quite interesting because I feel like it's almost to where's the tension where for her family's essentially everything for her, which in contrary for Creon it's the state, it's the polis, which it's the fundamental, like, you know, we're preserving the polis, and that's why Polynices could not get a proper burial. And so I like the tension between the way that both of those characters, at least for me, like it feels like they both have things that essentially ground them throughout the play, right? Which is the maintenance of the state from Creon, or of avenging her family and her honor, or her family's honor for Antigone. But they tend to overlap as well, right? Like throughout the play, we'll see a point where Creon realizes the fact that he is the father of his son Haemon, and say like, you will listen to me, you'll be obedient because I am your father. So relying on those same things that he's denying Antigone. So I think these, again, it's just a tension that I was talking about that is woven so beautifully within this play. And yeah, should we read the passage or should we?
Sure.
Yeah.
So the passage I was thinking about is right before Antigone is brought before Creon to respond for her actions, because someone saw her, someone caught her, the messenger I think it is, no, the guard, caught her next to the corpse, and he brought her before Creon. Creon had given the order of catching whoever was that buried or gave any honors to the body. And she is brought before Creon, and I'll be Creon if you wanna be Antigone.
Okay.
And we can read until the guards enter, so one page, until they finish their conversation basically.
Okay. Yeah.
Before Ismael comes in.
This is page 16 for anyone who's reading along.
Yeah, page 16.
In this edition. I think it's you beginning.
Yes. You there, who keep your eyes fixed on the ground, do you admit this, or do you deny it?
No, I do not deny it. I admit it.
Then you might go. What would you like? You have been fully cleared of that grave accusation. Exit. I was telling that to the guard, basically, because before Creon had sort of attacked the guard, thinking that it was him who did that. And then I looking back at her and Antigone, I say, you, tell me briefly, I want no long speech. Did you know that this had been forbidden?
Of course I knew. There was a proclamation.
And so you dare to disobey the law?
It was not Zeus who published this decree, nor have the powers who rule among the dead impose such laws upon this mankind, nor could I think that a decree of yours. A man could override the laws of heaven, unwritten and unchanging. Not of today or yesterday is your authority. They are eternal. No man saw their birth. Was I to stand before the gods, tribunal for disobeying them, because I feared a man? I knew that I should have to die, even without your etiquette. If I die before my time, why then, I count it again. To one who lives as I do, ringed about with countless miseries, why death is welcome. For me to meet this doom is little grief. But when my mother's son lay dead, had I neglected him and left him there unburied, that would have caused me grief. This causes none. And if you think it folly, then perhaps I am accused of folly by the fool.
Well, now the chorus says, the daughter shows her father's temper, fierce, defiant. She will not yield to any storm. And now Creon speaks again. But it is those that are most obstinate suffer the greatest fall, the hardest iron, most fiercely tempered in fire. That is, most often snapped and splintered. I have seen the wildest horses tamed, and only by the tiny bit. There is no room for pride in one who is a slave. This girl already had fully learned the art of insolence when she transgressed the laws that I established. And now that she adds a second outrage to boast of what she did and laugh at us. Now she would be the man, not I, if she defeated me and did not pay for it. But though she be my niece, or closer still than all our family, she shall not escape the direst penalty, no, nor shall her sister. I judge her guilty too. She played her part in burying the body. Summon her. Just now I saw her raving and distracted within the palace. So it often is. Those who plan crime in secret are betrayed by themselves. They show it in their faces. But this is worst of all, to be convicted and then to glorify the crime as virtue.
Would you do more than simply take and kill me?
I have nothing more and nothing less. I will have nothing more and nothing less.
Then why delay? To me no words of yours is pleasing. God forbid it should be so. And everything in me displeases you. Yet what could I have done to win renown more glorious than giving burial to my own brother? These men too would say it, except that terror cows them into silence. A king has many a privilege, the greatest that he can say and do all that he will.
You are the only one in Thebes to think it.
These think as I do, but they dare not speak.
Have you no shame, not comfort with others?
To reverence a brother is no shame.
Was he no brother, he who died for Thebes?
One mother and one father gave them birth.
Honoring the traitor, you dishonor him.
He will not bear this testimony in death.
Yes, if the traitor fare the same as he.
It was a brother, not a slave, who died.
He died attacking Thebes. The other saved us.
Even so, the god of death demands this rights.
The good demand more honor than the wicked.
Who knows? In death they may be reconciled.
Death does not make an enemy a friend.
Even so, I give both love, not share their hatred.
Down then to hell. Love there, if love you must. While I am living, no woman shall have rule. Yeah, I love that passage, and like for me illustrates like the most interesting part of Antigone is of like that questioning of whether like which laws are more valuable, right? Like the laws of the gods that to which Antigone is appealing to, or the gods of the state and the laws of man, and to what degree the laws of man can intervene and like intrude into such a things as burying a corpse. I really like that, and I think that's also the reason why at the beginning, like on a first impression, Antigone was also my favorite play of the three.
I think what's quite interesting with Antigone as well is like her relationship to death. It's very much her own roast in that way.
Yeah, very Heideggerian.
Yeah, very Heideggerian death. I remember there's a point where her sister was saying, will my fate not meet the same as yours?
Yeah.
And she says, no, you have chosen the land of the living, right? And mine is death.
Yeah.
And her, just the way that she accepts and
Yeah.
does not revere death, especially.
Then why delay? She says.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. It's very commendable, right? And I think there's a lot of like passion and the way that Sophocles writes, like you sort of see this sort of force in which she's able to sort of go through whatever she believes in.
Right.
And I think the same for Creon as well. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, Creon lost his family because of his own beliefs and his own strongholds. And again, I think it's just a really beautiful way to like hold tension between the characters as well. So
Nice. Yeah, I mean that was Antigone. We'll run a little bit through Oedipus the King and Electra as well. The three of them were amazing. Like I enjoyed the three of them, and probably for what I've seen in people's reactions, the preference tends to be by that order: Antigone, Oedipus the King, or Electra. Although Oedipus the King and Antigone sort of like are exchanged. I think equally similar amounts of people like one or the other. On retrospective, even though at the beginning I liked more Antigone, I like Oedipus the King more now, because as I was going back through the pages, I realized that Oedipus the King, like that tragedy is truly inevitable. And Antigone is very, very close, but you can still question like the whole play, the whole tragedy is sort of like subject to Creon not allowing her to bury her corpse, right? And then, well, we didn't say how it ends, but Antigone is also the girlfriend of Haemon.
which is surprising because Antigone never mentions that she has a husband.
Yes.
Right?
No, I don't know if it's husband. I think it's just boyfriend.
Well, they were courted.
Okay.
Right? Like they weren't like officially married, but they were courted.
All right.
Yeah.
So,
like
and Haemon is the son of Creon,
Yeah.
which I haven't mentioned.
Yeah, their relationship was like publicly recognized.
Right.
And because the king Creon delayed the telling of Antigone to basically to release her when he got the message from Titeleus, or the messenger.
Tiresias?
Tiresias.
Yeah, that's a really cool character as well. We
Yeah.
had a really nice guy doing that. A really good actor doing that.
Because he was informed that by order he should free her and then give her brother a proper burial.
Because the gods were not pleased.
Yeah. But he did the opposite at the end of the day.
I think he wanted to get away, no? Because he was like, okay, I'm not gonna kill her, I'm gonna bury her in a cave so that he dies by starvation rather than by my own hand.
Yeah. But even when he sort of came to the realization that he should listen to the messenger and release her, he still delayed that process of releasing her, which obviously ended up to her hanging herself, right?
Yeah, and then
like,
when he comes in,
yeah, then the whole fiasco, his essential hamartia, just falls right before him.
yeah, because like Tiresias, who's like a blind, I think it's blind prophet, prophesies that if he didn't do that, like bad things would happen, basically.
Yeah.
And then when he's finally convinced about this, Creon goes to the cave to free to free Antigone. But as he gets in the cave, Haemon is already crying over her body because she hung herself. Then Haemon tries to stab his father Creon, but in failing, he changes and he decides to stab himself, killing himself. So he loses his son, and a messenger tells this news to Iocasta. Iocasta is his sister. To his wife, Eurydice, I think it's called.
Eurypus.
Something like that. Yeah, I'm always mixing the names in Spanish and in English with these characters because I know them from Spanish. And when she realizes, she kills herself before Creon can do anything about it. So Creon is now left alone, and it's interesting also that at the end of this tragedy, like the tragic character doesn't die. He's not a martyr. Like what makes him a tragic character is that he has to live now with that, and probably gonna be overthrown because everyone knows that he's responsible for like all of that, for an unreasonable condemnation that he wanted to make to Antigone. Although he does forgive his men. But yeah, that's it. On a flashback to going to Oedipus the king, I've been checking because like it turns out that Oedipus the king is only one part of the whole of Oedipus, which is 3 plays or more. So I've been checking things that are not here, so I'm just gonna take the whole story of Oedipus, because I've been Wikipedia, you know, because in this story Oedipus is already king, right? And basically he's a king, and there is a plague, and they told him, okay, he looks for a prophet to find out how to stop the plague. And he says that the plague will not stop until he finds out who killed the previous king. So, although this play is self-contained, I like it's totally enjoyable by itself. Before this play, we have a previous one where Oedipus is a child that is brought up by Laius. It's not written here. Well, by Laius, I think it's Laius, and well, basically, but by two by the previous king and his wife, Iocasta. Now it's Iocasta, and basically a prophet tells them the prophecy of Oedipus, that he will, if he grows up, he will kill Laius, his father, and marry his. No, I think it just tells them that he will kill his father, nothing else. So he gives the baby to a serpent, so that he will kill the baby. That he just leaves it on the hills for it to die. But the serpent doesn't do it. He gives it to a shepherd, a Corinthian shepherd, and this one gives it to a shepherd from Thebes. And at the end, Oedipus grows up in a family where he doesn't know that they are not his parents. It's just like a peasant family, I think. He doesn't know that they are not his parents. But one day he is told that if he continues there, he will kill his father and marry his mother. So he escapes from that family to not fulfill that prophecy. And in escaping, he's going on a crossroads, and turns out that there's like a Greek costume of preference when you're going through a road. And in these crossroads, the king with a few of his soldiers is coming, and he obviously expects him to get off the road, but he has a preference in the road, and he doesn't know that that guy is the king, his father. And obviously he also doesn't know that he's his father, so he kills everyone there and keeps going. And on his way to the city, it turns out that there's like a sphinx that is sort of like destroying the crops and gives riddles to people, and if they don't solve the riddles, they die. They kill them. It kills them. So the Sphinx tells Oedipus a riddle. It's something like, what animal walks on 4 legs when he's a child, on 2 as an adult, and on 3 legs in old age? And it's and Oedipus solves the riddle. He says that he's human because when you're a child you go by force, as an adult you walk, and and when you have the stick and you're older, you go on 3 legs. So Creon, who was the one who was in charge in that moment in the city, if I'm not wrong, said that he would make king anyone who solved that, who free the city from the Sphinx. Because in that moment, I guess there was a vacant without they didn't have a king, basically. So Oedipus marries Iocasta, the widow that he just widowed by killing his father before, and becomes king. And then is when the other part of the play starts, like when he's already king. And he finds out throughout the play that the person who's causing the plague, the person who's responsible for all the people that is dying, because of that plague is him, because and he is the one who has to be found, because that's what the prophet told him, that once they find that the person that killed the previous king, he would the plague would stop. But not only is he the one who's responsible for that plague, he's also killed his father at that crossroads that he finds out through this investigation, and that he's also married to his mother, who, when she finds out, also kills herself. And Oedipus, in shame, takes a brooch from her dress, I think it is, and removes his eyes, like rips off his eyes, and then asks, and then exiles himself. And when he exiles himself, Antigone, his daughter, is the one that decides to go with him and take care of him, and they start a long pilgrimage to a different place. Oedipus is extremely tragic, and I think it's very, like, what I really like about it is that it's not a bad, like, Oedipus is portrayed as a exemplary king, as a good soldier. There's nothing that he does wrong, but yet the tragedy comes to him. So for me, it's like Sophocles saying, like, tragedies don't only happen to people who deserve it, you know. And I think that for the time, that's pretty news. I don't know if it was something that was already sort of like assumed, but I like that. Also, Oedipus is guilty from the time he's born, because something I forgot to say is that Laius, his father, was forbidden to have children by the previous king because of something he did. I don't remember exactly what, but he got drunk and fucked his wife, and that was the conception of Oedipus. So he was already a clandestine child from the moment he was born. So Sophocles is obviously posing the question of, like, can a baby be guilty of something that has nothing to do with him? I thought that all of that was quite interesting, and even to the last moment, like, I think he punishes himself like way more than anyone would do. There's certainly more than I would do when I found out. I would not rip my eyes off for anything. So yeah, that's Oedipus. I think that's what the reason why for me it is now my favorite of the three, and so far it might now. I mean, Bacchae I think is still my favorite Greek play. Maybe also because it's the first Greek play I read, but this is definitely a huge contender. But it's because here tragedy is truly inevitable. Like, I like it when a play or a story in general has no weak parts, you know? I understand why Aristotle said that is the perfect tragedy in his Poetics, I think it is. So if you wanna get cracked with Electra and we finish.
No, sure. I enjoyed your reading of Oedipus.
Cheers.
I think it's like I think it's, well, at least for me with Oedipus, it was the least predictable. Despite knowing the story,
Despite knowing the story, you found it the least predictable.
The least predictable. Like, I only know Oedipus from, like, the sort of modern and postmodernists who have metamorphized and changed the word, but have sort of, there's a structure that you assume to it, but for me it was the least predictable.
Right.
Which made it like the most sort of shocking in that way. It made it the one that stuck with me, despite my love for Antigone.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Which segueing to Electra is probably why I didn't enjoy Electra as much. I thought the story was, I could see where it was going.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yes.
And so I guess that affects the way that I felt the tragedy. You know? Like, I wasn't there with the character, I wasn't there with Electra. But that's not to say that it's not a good play. I think it's just my and maybe because we didn't read it as a group, but this time I was reading it alone.
Yeah,
maybe that's
Electra is the one play that we read by ourselves.
So maybe that affected my reception for Electra. What did you think about it?
So I found the Electra.
No,
Sorry. I found Electra to be a very interesting character. Because it does not articulate the plot, and yet she is the main character. And I think that shows how, because I heard that Electra is the last or one of the latest plays from Sophocles, and it makes sense because he's at a point where like he can write a story, call it Electra, make her the main character, and not give her any action in the whole story. The story basically is that Agamemnon was married to Clytemnestra. Agamemnon went to the war of Troy, and while he was out in the war of Troy, Aegisthus and who was a servant, I think, started an affair with Clytemnestra, Agamemnon's wife. When he came back, Aegisthus and Clytemnestra, Electra's mother, conspired and killed Agamemnon, Electra's father. And then Electra took her brother, away so that he would be taken care of and he would be able to grow up to eventually take revenge over both of them. And that's why Electra hates so strongly her mother and obviously the murder of her father. She definitely has like a super emphasized love for both of them, her father and her brother.
Yeah.
Her only two reasons to exist, or that as she claims. And when her brother is old enough, he comes back and helps her, and pretty much like he does the job. He kills both of them. He fulfills the vengeance that they were seeking. So she's sort of like on the background, and all that we get from her is her inner conflict, her doubts, and her pain. And I think that's what I liked about Electra. The only thing, probably, compared to the others, is not so much the plot or all the characters, but the fact that a character who's simply suffering is, in the eyes of Sophocles as a writer, important enough to be the protagonist of a tragedy. That's all you need to do, you know? You don't have to perpetrate any huge actions. You don't have to die, you don't have to kill, you don't have to rule.
It's like the seduction of despair itself was enough for the book or for the play itself to just to sustain it.
Yes.
And I think that's part of the reason probably why I also didn't like it. I think whilst despair and suffering are very much part of our consciousness, they cannot come close to the full extent of it, you know?
Right.
But what I loved about Electra is that she was super aware of that, you know? Like, she would tell her mother and her sister, like, I am aware and I feel humiliated by my position, but what can I do but suffer? This is all I can do. You know, I can only sort of wallow in my own despair. And I thought, like, yeah, you know, like, she gets it. Like, some parts she generally does get it, you know?
Right.
Like, it's not just sort of suffering in vain. It's so much more than that to her.
It's suffering in itself.
In itself, exactly.
It even makes explicit what is implicit in tragedies, which is like the main, at least in Sophocles' tragedies, the main thing is suffering.
Yeah.
I mean, tragedy pretty much equals suffering at some point. And in that sense, Electra is not so much Electra the woman, but Electra the embodiment of that suffering.
Yeah.
As the main character that Sophocles has been sort of like writing over and over and over with different characters in all his stories, of which we only have a few.
Sadly,
Yeah.
But yeah, I think like Electra I feel was perhaps the most human for me, you know? Like she felt very close in the way that we can sort of fall into our own despair and our own suffering with our own minds, with our own tragedies, you know? And maybe that's probably why I also didn't like it.
Right.
You know, like I wanted to be far away.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was fantastic. I think the only thing I would change is probably how I read it. I'd want to read it as a group again.
Right, yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
we have to do this more.
Yeah.
We need to get someone on board to do all Shakespeare.
Yeah.
Like just two more people.
Yeah,
That'd be so nice.
Yeah. And we spoke to one of our friends, and he was like, "Yeah, he's ready to do Electra as a group." So I think this plays deserve that at least.
Yeah.
There's so much complexity within the characters that you need quite literally different voices to read each. so you can just like separate it. Because like when it's in your head, it's like all enmeshed. It's all your voice like reading the same thing. Like you're the protagonist and the antagonist and like the guard, and like you can't be all of those. And I think that's like the beauty about Sophocles' plays is like you have like a web of people who are just enmeshed, and like you're trying to like, you know, like take them all out by themselves. And so yeah, I think it's a really, really solid play.
We can try Prometheus next time.
Yes.
Whenever they feel like Greek plays, because so far they were saying that they wanted something more postmodern for the next for the next play, which is fine. That's also good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really enjoyed this. Thank you for joining me.
No worries.